How do you feel about late season shooting does, like after they've been bred?
So the whole notion of a doe being bred, to me, I never really associated that too much with anything, because for one, if you shoot it in October before she's bred, it's a deer that doesn't get bred. So it's like, that's another doe. And then if they are, like right now, if I go to shoot a couple does, like I shot some of my bow last year in end of December, beginning of January, I'm sure they were both pregnant and I didn't think nothing of it. Like, I'm just trying to look at it from a management practice. And for me, I'd rather take a couple does off the landscape when it's hard for them to find food, so the ones that do survive have a better spring moving forward and they have a better, healthier fawn when they drop them. The notion that you shoot them all, they're never going to come back, like, you really have to decimate a lot of deer to do that.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast, the podcast for wildlife habitat management, hunting strategy, and land stewardship. And now, your host, Jared Van Hees.
Welcome to the Habitat Podcast.
I'm your host, Jared Van Hees, and we're here to become better habitat managers. Happy 2026, everyone. Everybody had a great New Year's holiday season. It's habitat season now, but Happy New Year to everybody. We made it. We got a lot done. The Habitat crew had probably one of our best years ever. The land plan crew, guys and gals who have done these land plans with me for years now, slayed them this year in 2025. So really grateful for the past year, and we are on to bigger and better things. While we're going to keep doing what we're doing, great. So we have a great episode for you here today. We have my good friend Adam Miller from the Bow Hunter Chronicles podcast, and my good friend Mr. Nate Rozeveld from the Michigan Wild podcast. Andy Hutchins running the show here today. I showed up a few minutes tardy and had a great conversation about kind of wrapping up our years, the out-of-state hunts, what habitat to look for, just kind of planning things for next year. This conversation got me thinking about what I'm going to do this coming fall, in-state, out-of-state travel, what to look for, scouting, etc. So great conversation with a couple of yucks. They're great dudes, both good friends of mine and Andy's. So hope you enjoy. Hope you had a happy new year. I'm sending a bunch of new decals out to folks who left us great reviews on Apple iTunes or the podcast app, whatever you want to call it, Spotify. If you did not get your decal yet, just email me, info@habitatpodcast.com. You can message me on Facebook, Instagram, all that. And we're going to get them set out. New batch coming in this week. Get them sent out for you here for 2026. So thanks so much, guys. Get those saws fired up, chains sharpened, new chains, new bar, whatever you got to do. We're about to start cutting real hard. See you next week.
All right, we're back. Another episode of the Habitat Podcast. This week we've got a couple no strangers to the podcast. We'll start with Mr. Adam. How you doing today?
Not too bad. Coming off a very long stretch of work. It's been brutal. So, happy to be here this morning.
Man, lucky we got you. You weren't sleeping in. That's good. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, Adam Miller, you might know me as the world's worst bow hunter. I've been doing the Bow Hunters podcast for, I think this is year 7 or 8 now, and just having fun. And now we're starting doing some video work with collaboration with a bunch of friends that I've met through the podcast that have a bunch of stuff and that you can find on YouTube with the Rome Syndicate. And we're still figuring it out. So best we can. I think we're doing a good job, but we're like I say, we're still figuring out how we're going to do this thing.
Okay. That's awesome, man. It's been fun following along with you guys. What about what do they call it? What were they calling you out in Iowa there, Nate?
Yukon Cornelius.
Yukon Cornelius. Heck yeah. How you doing today, buddy?
Good. I mean, the nickname's fitting because we've been going through like a blizzard here in Michigan for the west side of the state here the last couple of days. But yeah, doing good. Busy, a lot going on, and yeah, happy to do this podcast. So you two guys, you old heads, two old heads.
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself there, Nate. Not that people don't know who you are, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate Rozeveld. I 35 years old. I have been, I think I've been on this podcast maybe a couple times. I know I've had Jared on with me, I do get to sell quite a bit of vitalized seed every year. Became a dealer, so that's been cool. And I've been hosting the Michigan Wild podcast for 2.5 years approximately. And I don't know when this podcast is launching, but I just published my last episode as a host of Michigan Wild. So got some
Okay.
changes coming up for 2026. But yeah, that's me.
Heck yeah. If you're not evolving, you're not moving, right? I mean, look at me. I did the same thing. We shut down, or not shut down. We kind of hiatus the Deer Camp podcast, and I jumped on to be the co-host here with Jared on the Habitat podcast. I guess the main host today, because Jared's MIA, but he's up there in the winter wonderland, or as Adam would call it, summer, because it's not a big deal. So, but yeah, I wanted to get you guys on, talk some habitat stuff. I know you both did vitalized plots this year. And see where we're at from there. So we'll start with you, Adam. You planted some in the UP, and you got a lease this year, right?
Yeah, so the lease was really, really late. And so we didn't do any habitat work there. Close to me here, there's a ton of farmland. One of my good friends, his uncle basically, I don't know, owns half the county. So last year the previous year, some leases had fallen off, and we were trying to get something for my daughter. She's 10 now, and my father-in-law is 73. And so trying to get something for those two. My daughter hunts in the UP with us at our property 7-8 hours away. And, she basically gets to hunt one time a year and maybe a little bit on the youth hunt, and try to get her to hunt a little bit more. And it's not like me trying to push her to hunt, but it's just, she says of her own accord, crossbows are lazy, Dad. And we don't really have a good private piece to go hunt where it's quote unquote safe, or like to have a good or the same experience that she has in the UP. And so that fell through last year. And this year, I think it was maybe September 15th, one came about. And so we jumped on it, and that was a learning curve. And saw some deer, missed a decent buck 3 times, same buck, same time, the 3 times, same sit. Just private land deer are different. I'll tell you that. It's a true story. But yeah, so we didn't do any habitat work there. But figuring out this whole private land thing is wild. And then our property in the UP, Jared's been up there. He's walked it with us. And my cousin, they live in Wisconsin, much closer. He and his buddies they go up there all the time. They love it. And they handle all of that stuff mainly. And then we bring the kids up there in the summer, do some of the food plot work. We have probably 3 fields. One of them is maybe 4 acres. We have like a 1 acre field, and then a couple of like half acre, quarter acre fields that we can plant. And we had a really small tractor that was really tough to put in anything of substance. So we were just putting in like kind of, I think maybe for like your audience would be like kill plots or things that would be, because it's funny, because I went to some of Nate's properties and he's like, oh, I just threw these in July or whatever, like really late, and the frickin' radishes are giant and everything, and this is in December or January after the season. And it's like, oh my God, like we can't get that stuff. But we also have like the deer there just hammer this stuff. Like it's insane, because I think what's happening is we don't put in enough to sustain the amount of deer that are there. And everybody says, oh, there's no deer in the UP. Well, whatever's happening on our properties, the deer are just just crushing everything that we have. And so this year, kind of like after they planted, after everything, sold off the one tractor, bought a really nice tractor, So this upcoming year, we should probably see some leaps and bounds just based on equipment. And I know, when I have Jared on the podcast and Al, we talk a lot about, some of the no-till stuff, some of the stuff that you can do without the equipment. But I think, when you're trying to do stuff at scale, like not just little kill plots, not just little stuff, I think equipment kind of goes a long way. So that's kind of what we've been working towards. And between, being in the UP, being able to do some mineral, being able to put in the vitalize and put in some food plots and develop a system where we're doing it regularly, consistently. We've been seeing a lot more deer, holding deer, and seeing a lot more bucks. And I think everybody, especially got the guy on the bottom of the screen, screw that guy, but quality bucks is a different thing. But for up there, quality bucks, we've been seeing more and more of those, which we hadn't been in years past.
Okay, that's great, man. Glad to hear that. What kind of tractor did you guys get?
So it's, I want to say it's like I'm not a tractor guy, but it's like I think it's like a 30 some horse Kubota 4-wheel drive, real diesel, real easy to use. The other one was a Kubota. It was a like super small diesel, but it was I think it was a Mustang. It was very old, and it was like of the like when they sold it, like, because my dad's uncle had bought it brand new, like they had all of the service manuals, they had everything that came with it, so they sold it almost as like a collector's item.
Okay.
Like but it was, like I said, it wasn't 4-wheel drive. We were giving it everything. We got everything we could get out of it. And it just couldn't handle what we needed to do with it.
Okay. Well, that's awesome, man. There's nothing better than having a nice tractor to be able to do that work with. I know from years past when we, originally on the farm, we had nothing but old stuff. Yeah, I think you had to tinker with it every time you get it out. It's nice to have that good stuff. Let's back up a little bit and talk about your lease a little more. Kind of paint us a picture of what it how it lays out. And then are you planning on releasing it again this year?
So I believe that the deal is that we have it for 3 years.
Okay.
So, and I've sent the pictures and all the stuff to Nate. It's pretty cool. It's 300 acres, but it's just a little tiny block of timber. So it's like this year it was beans with like a little strip of timber, fence row, alfalfa on the other side, and then there was another strip of timber, corn. The backside of it was corn, and there's maybe like 4 acres of timber with a ridge that goes through the center of it, and then between all of that, there's some ditch lines. Like it lays out like a mini Kansas, I would say.
Okay.
And then to the south, there's a pretty big block of timber on the neighbor's land. And then to the north is a road. And then across the road this year was all corn. And it's basically, I don't know what you would call that, Nate, like half a section. It's basically like half of a mile. Like,
okay. Yeah, it's a half section. Yeah, I would say. And like he said, like I've seen the overhead views of it on the digital maps, and it's kind of an unassuming property. Like I think when you drive by, you probably don't really realize what's going on. So like the first time I looked at it, I was like, ooh, this is kind of a cool property, Adam. And they're a little different hunting experience than what Adam's used to, for sure. But that kind of property is the kind of stuff I love to hunt. But yeah, you gotta hunt it to learn it. And can you do like food plots over there, Adam? Do you think, is there space for it? Because they kind of got I know there's ditch lines and stuff, but it seems like they kind of got the ag right up against the cover there.
So yes, there is all the ag is right up against the cover. But as you guys know, like the tractors can only get so close. So, and like I say, my buddy, like his uncle owns the whole county. So his cousins are the one that are planning it. So I just have to figure out what, like I can ask him when they're planning it, what they're going to do, and what he does on his, because he's got his property that he bought and then he leases what's behind him. And he just tells them to make a wider swath right there. And so on the corners, he just plants the corners with all the stuff that he does. And so the spot actually where Nate and I both came to the conclusion, like, okay, this is where you got to sit. Like, this is what's happening, which, by the way, is where all the poison ivy is planted also. Just, you know.
Can't be perfect, I mean.
So I found that out that during the youth hunt. But yeah, so right there, there was a fair bit of like barren land and like in a couple of different spots where, you know, the tractors couldn't get, the seed didn't take, you know, all that stuff where you can go in and kind of do that stuff. So,
okay. Are you planning on doing some stuff in there this coming year?
That's kind of
or like clover chicory or something like that.
But yes, exactly that stuff. Again, this is your domain. You know, this is not, you know,
carbon load. That's what I.
But like I said, the strangest thing to me is like I said, would go into Nate's properties where it's farmland, right? So he just like, oh, just throw this down here and like, you know, stuff that didn't take is like a baseball sized radish. Like, that's nothing, you know. At our place, we put in this year, I think was the first year that we did like one of the barrier fences, you know, so we put up a fence in the summer and we had peas that were 4 or 5 feet tall and the whole field looked like nothing grew. Like it looked like we sprayed it with Roundup and nothing was there. So that's what we're dealing with, you know, up in the UP. So I feel like in this situation where there's, you know, depending on how they rotate the crops or whatever, whether it's beans or whatever, there's going to be so much other opportunities for food that stuff will get to grow and there'll be some diversity. So, you know, whatever the experts say needs to be there, you know, I can put some of that in there, spill it or whatever, and you know, let it take, and then maybe that'll work out well for me. But you know,
okay, I like it. Looking forward to following along and watching that this fall. Fall, whatever it is. It's winter now, spring, summer. Yeah, this summer. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Mr. Rozeveld, Yukon Cornelius. You've been shooting deer all over the place this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a really good fall. I unlike Adam, as he likes to say, that I have the private land life. I've kind of got that dialed in the last, 10 years, give or take. Got some really good properties kind of throughout the state. I kind of live closer to Grand Rapids, so I got a few pieces there. And then I got some family property, 100 miles north. So having deer and having an opportunity to see deer has always been something I've been blessed with. But the last couple of years, kind of took the food plot strategy and tried to implement that a little better for just a couple of reasons. Wanted to do it to improve the hunting a little bit more with, having sustained success throughout the year instead of, I mean, a lot of people can relate to this. Sometimes you might have a small piece of private and it's only good for like a 10-day window or a 3-day window. And you might sit there a lot and just be void of deer. So the last couple of years, I kind of tried to use food plot strategy to maybe hold deer a little longer or just give deer a reason to travel farther, because some of those properties I can't do any habitat stuff with, and they're just, the cover might be on the neighbors, or the cover's only on me early season, and then it transitions to, the thermal cover and the snow when snow starts flying. And man, I've had just great success with implementing the food plot strategy on some of those properties. And yeah, this year I was able to punch quite a few tags. I think I've shot 7 deer in Michigan, and then my son shot 2. And man, my dad shot 3 does. My grandpa shot deer. Like, we all had a really good fall this year.
Heck yeah. You've been doing quite a bit of doe patrol.
Yes. So I think it's something me and Adam have kind of talked about this too. And I've been talking kind of open about it the last couple of years, just like learning, or maybe like not, I don't know if learning is the right word, but just understanding that, Michigan has a doe problem in certain areas of the state, and becoming more aware of what was going on in certain parts of the UP. Adam, obviously, the area of the UP is in, he doesn't deal with the same kind of issue that, deer numbers, but he does have a lot of does, and, seeing the, certain age class of bucks has been something that has been super common. So, but I was just noticing, like, even on some of these properties where I maybe would not shoot does because I was looking for that mature buck, or, really like seeing a lot of deer. And I was beginning to see the toll that was having on some of the habitat. Like, there's some of these woods haven't been cut in 30 years, and it just looks like a nature preserve, like wide open. And I just started paying more attention to what guys were saying with, like, percentage of, if, go to NRC meetings, you hear about these really guys who are really passionate about, deer hunting in Michigan. They start throwing statistics out there and doing research. And it's like, wow, I can shoot a lot more deer than I ever thought I could. The notion that you shoot them all, they're never going to come back. Like, you really have to decimate a lot of deer to do that. So just having discussions with my dad and me and all these other properties, like, oh, I'm seeing this many deer, so that means I can shoot X amount of deer and be fine. So yeah, I kind of spread that out this year and shot a couple of the bow. And then once the guns come out, that's when the does take it pretty bad from a Rozeveld. So, but yeah, that was kind of my mindset going to the last couple of years. Actually fill some tags. I think last year I shot 5 does, and I've shot 5 does this year, and I still got some season left to maybe fill a couple more. So that's the first time I've usually was good with shooting 1 with my bow and maybe 1 with my gun in a year. And last couple of years, like, okay, I got to start making sure I shoot more does than bucks for sure.
Are you guys more fans of shooting them early or late for your does?
So for me, like, I've shot a couple does in the early, like, doe hunt around close to home, just because it's easy to do it with a bow in a spot. Like, if you have beans, it's like the youth hunt, right? If you have beans on your property in September and they're green, like, you can pretty much see deer and get one in range. And then I've also shot them with a gun. But for me, like, when I go, I love shooting does either in that early doe hunt or like October lull time. Like, I will go target does on a food source. And it kind of depends on the circumstance. If I feel like I have a really good weather day, like, I'll go target a buck in a different area. Like, where I typically shoot does and where I shoot bucks are two different areas, if that makes sense. So, but I have no problem whacking a doe or 2 with a bow in the year. Like, I love it. I can keep you sharp. But
how do you feel about late season shooting does, like after they've been bred,
So for me, like, I've never been too hung up on that part of doe harvest, because growing up, like, you can flip through my grandparents' photo albums, like, there's always dead deer. Like, every November 15th, it didn't matter. We were never strictly buck hunters. Like, my grandpa was a dairy farmer and has crops, and his saying is, they're eating me out of house and home, so shoot them all. Like, that's how I grew up hearing that. And, piles of deer being shot on opening day or Thanksgiving. So the whole notion of a doe being bred, to me, I never really associated that too much with anything, because, for one, if you shoot it in October before she's bred, it's a deer that doesn't get bred. So it's like, that's another doe. And then if they are, like, right now, if I go to shoot a couple does, like, I shot some of my bow last year in end of December, beginning of January, and I'm sure they were both pregnant, and I didn't think nothing of it. Like, I'm just trying to look at it from a management practice. And if I would rather take a couple does off the landscape when it's hard for them to find food, so the ones that do survive have a better spring moving forward, and they have a better, healthier fawn when they drop them. So that's kind of my mindset with that.
Okay. What about you, Adam? How do you feel about it? You'll shoot them any day of the week, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like I said, like, for what's fun talking with Nate is that like we are like diametrically opposed. Like I'm just a deer hunter. Like I go out there and I'm not targeting a specific deer. I'm not looking for this or that. Like I'm out there hunting deer. And if a deer shows up and I'm like, I would say maybe in the last maybe in the last 3 years, I probably passed more deer than in all of the years prior to those 3 years. But most of the time it's like a deer shows up and it's got to be really moving past me. Like for me to like, it doesn't get a whole lot of time. Like if it walks in and I'm like, I don't want to shoot it, but if it sticks around any longer than that, like if it's there and I have to like make a decision, like, well, I guess it wanted to die. Like that's kind of like how it works. It's not like I'm going out and like, oh, I'm only hunting this today. I'm only hunting that today. But like this year on the Patreon hunt, I passed a lot of small deer, like bucks, does, button bucks, even button bucks that Nate would shoot.
Not with my bow, but with your bow.
But yeah, so like for me, I feel like it's a balance of the hunting, not the deer so much. And it ends up being like, I think earlier in the season, like, especially with like, I think I'm getting to a point with like smaller bucks and stuff like that, where I don't want the season to be over. I like the hunting aspect of it, but as far as does, like, you know, I've said it a million times, like I never grew up around any sort of buck hunting. You know, if in my personal family, if someone got a buck, like that was cool, but everybody went to the UP and came home with a doe. Like I remember one time going up the property that was just to the north of us. I remember sitting on that ridge with a rifle and I saw 30 deer that morning. Like, and that was one morning and I just didn't shoot. I was, waiting for a bucket. There was no distinction of like, was I going to get a deer? And I remember another time when I was trying to shoot a buck that I had 3 bucks come right underneath my tree and a doe. And it just wasn't a buck that I wanted to shoot. It was some gnarly 7-point or whatever. Didn't shoot. The day before we left, I had a nice buck chasing a doe, but there's antler point restrictions up there. I couldn't tell if it had brow tines or not. It was out past its ears. It was nice, but I couldn't count points. And I shot the doe that it was chasing to get the meat to bring home. Like it was never about like, oh, we have to shoot a buck, like whatever. It's just, maybe that's that mentality, that Michigan mentality, or like I'm just got to get my deer guy. Like there's that whole thing. Like I just got to get a deer. Like I grew up, like we were hunting for venison and it didn't like never antlers. There was no inches. There was no, like, it's almost until I started until the podcasting thing, or like before that, but not too much before that, where even inches even became like into my like vernacular. That means like vocabulary, like the words around it. I know how it's tough for you, but like it never was ever a thing. And then so when my father-in-law, you guys have met my father-in-law, he just shoots at everything. And for the longest time, they only killed bucks, and he was the just shoot a buck guy. And they didn't shoot does for the entire 80s and into the 90s. They never shot does. And so it was just a real different thing. So for me, it's just shoot deer. Like I'm going deer hunting. If I get excited and that's the thing, like I don't want to lose that excitement because I'm trying to hunt a doe or I'm trying to shoot this buck or I'm trying to shoot this. So early season, late season, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all.
I like it. Yeah, it's funny you talk about that 80s and 90s. That's what I grew up going to a camp that it was bucks only. Like you didn't shoot does because the does are what brought the bucks in, which we, if it's too many, you know how that goes. But same situation. And now it's just it's a completely different aspect of, I mean, Shane and I sat my son youth season this year behind the house here on the big plot. And we had 6 different doe families in different quadrants that we could see with like 20 some different does. And it was like, okay, so this is showing that it doesn't, we have too many deer. You might not see them on camera. You might not see them all at the same time. But when you can sit in a big area and see that, you know that you have a doe problem. And so we've been shooting a few here and there and hopefully get out one more time. But yeah, I grew up with you don't shoot does just like that. And but that's kind of a changed situation, and it's fun, man. I'll tell you what, I get geeked out of just shooting anything anymore. Getting out there, I mean, I'll get that dopamine drop or whatever on a doe now, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I love targeting does. Like right now, I don't have a buck tag, so I'm like, when next time I go out, I'm gonna go try to sit here, and I think they're gonna do this. Like that's the strategy of. I like, and Adam makes fun of me for because I can like do that, when you're a public, and that's the private land life versus public life, right? Like private land, you kind of like no one's been there. So like food to bed, like I got it all figured out through scouting. So it's like if the wind direction's here, I should be able to sit right here and be bulletproof. And then it's like open the floodgates and here comes a pile of deer. And it's just up to me to make sure I pick the right day and make a good shot. Like I think that's a lot different mindset of targeting deer and punching tags than like getting dropped on a piece of public or grinding out a sit, or you might have scouted it, but who knows when the last person hunted there. There's so many different variables. So yeah, I've learned in the last couple of years that I was getting kind of numb to seeing deer, and I didn't really like that feeling. Like I was losing the excitement. Because like, well, yeah, duh, I'm going to see deer. Like, that's why I'm here, because there's a lot of deer, but I'd almost like take it for granted. I made a comment with Adam one time. I hunted one December morning. This might have been last year when I still had buck tags in my pocket. And I went out to the plot and I was like, yeah, I saw 6 bucks this morning. He's like, what? And I wasn't even like excited about seeing the 6 bucks. Like I was, but I wasn't, because I was looking for a specific deer. And he said that to me and he's like, dude, you saw 6 bucks in December in the morning. Like, that's pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like I gotta check myself. And that's why it's good to surround yourself with people who are, different situations. Less than, yes.
The pores.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but I would definitely say that ever since I met you, Adam, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it was, my mindset's changed. And I was the same way as that. I was always, looking for a buck or looking for that buck. And now it's just, it's actually made hunting more fun for me. Getting out there and, hey, look at that. Look, that little guy's got me excited, or that doe's got me excited. Let's take her before it be. Does are just walking. Does are walking. I'm not shooting them.
Yeah.
But I do want to transition a little bit to some out of state stuff here, guys. I know you both did some out of state stuff. Nate, you and I were in the same exact camp, just not at the same exact time this year. Let's talk that a little bit and tell me like what you thought about that habitat out there, because that was something I had never experienced before with that terrace ground and all those cedar thickets. What did you take away from that hunt?
Yeah, I mean, that when I had the opportunity to, go to Iowa in November, I was like, absolutely, even though I didn't have a weapon in hand, just a camera. I've hunted, Iowa, southern kind of Iowa a couple times. And I've drove through Iowa a few times. So I kind of knew what we were getting into, but hadn't really got to, hunt it that way. And yeah, it's a cool piece of heaven out there in that western part of Iowa. Seeing all the, like you said, the terraces and the habitat and how deer flow throughout that. It's unlike anything we have in Michigan, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I sat one spot that was literally like a fence row surrounded by, I could see a mile in every direction of farmland, and yet here deer would come cruising right by. Which, if you were in Michigan, now you wouldn't see a deer for years, or certainly not during the day anyway.
Yeah, and I kind of got the feel like the reason why like I'm sure like some guys who are listening who are maybe Southern Michigan or, Indiana, parts of Indiana where there's a lot of ag ground and there are ditches and tree rows and stuff. Well, that's all flat. Like this is that with hills and cuts and you can't see everything from the road. So if it's more flat land, those deer would all be dead because they'd be like, oh, they're over there. Like they have a lot of places to hide and run, and the pressure is just not the same. If that was like Michigan was all that, we would decimate the deer. Like everyone would kill them because there is limited space, kind of like similar to Kansas, right? Like if Kansas had the same amount of hunting pressure as like what Michigan has, those deer got nowhere to run and we'd kill them all, kind of a thing. So it's fun to go there. And like you said, you sit there and you're like, man, is there going to be a deer here? And then all of a sudden, just like a dinner bell rings, and they're all just flowing throughout the property, and it's pretty cool to see deer just do deer things when you go to a place like that.
Are you thinking about saddle hunting but haven't taken the plunge yet? Well, I can assure you, latitudeoutdoors.com is right where I would start if I were you. I got my brand new Method 3 2-panel saddle this year, the most comfy saddle on the market, ready to go this fall. Also, guys, I've been rocking the Method 2 for years. Method 3 came out. It couldn't get any better? Well, it did. This thing is insane. Check it out, latitudeoutdoors.com. But don't forget the Profile Saddle platform and their brand new Ranger 33 packs. I run the Ranger 22 right now, and I'm definitely looking at the Ranger 33 to add to my arsenal for this fall. Check them out, guys. Great people, a great company, Michigan-based, and they're already whacking bucks this season. LatitudeOutdoors.com. Have you ever been in a hurry to get a bunch of expensive seed down and not know exactly how much to put down? Or you get it down and you run out before you're halfway across the field? I have, and I'm done with it. I'm now using the Downburst Seeder DS860 Drop Seeder. Guys, I've been using the 860 now for 2 years, and this thing is bad to the bone. All aluminum, handcrafted here in northern Michigan. I will be planting switchgrass with mine. Doug and I were talking today about, prepping the ground for switchgrass, getting it on. Switchgrass is like $180 for 10 pounds. That's pretty expensive seed. I'm not just gonna willy-nilly throw it out there. So my Downburst behind my ATV or tractor or side-by-side will be exact 99% accurate with this seeder for any sort of expensive seeds. You can run any of our Vitalize mixes through there. You can run expensive seeds like alfalfa, clover, brassicas, and get exact rates. Don't end up with golf ball sized turnips anymore. Get the correct rate down and don't waste your money by wasting seed. Downburst DS860 Drop Seeder, brand new code HP100 at checkout. HP100, $100 off a Downburst Seeder. Check them out at downburstseeders.com.
Yeah, way different than Michigan, that's for sure. Adam, what about you? You were out in Kansas this year. What kind of habitat did you guys target while you were out there?
Well, that was a whole nother ball game. So I'd been to Kansas before and I hunted. So first of all, for me and going like out of state, it's like I call around to my buddies or people who've hunted there and say, what did you see? What's the habitat like? What are you targeting? And they say, this is what it is. This is where I hunted. This is what you got to look for. And so the first time I was in Kansas, it was like big farm, ag, large, like open, and you were just hunting, ditches. You were hunting, like river bottoms or creek bottoms or whatever, like all these little travel routes and pinches. Right. And so this was like completely, well, it was completely different. There was a whole bunch of like super thick stuff, but going out there, didn't know what I was getting into. I'd never been there before. Some people said, oh yeah, it's going to be nasty. Oh, you got to do this. Oh, you got to do this. We came into it with the expectation of like, oh, we might have to like use a boat to get in on the river or something like that. Well, the first morning, I wasn't planning on diving into any of that stuff. So we drove to what I knew and went to the open country and got into deer immediately. And so then went back, tried to figure it out. And we were in deer. But the problem was it was super like hot. Like it was like 80 degrees. And it was, day one, I ended up missing a smaller buck after I was at full draw on a 130 on my knees at 13 yards. We saw 6 bucks within 45 minutes. And so we were like, found the spot just by doing that, finding like the driving around, finding deer, and then finding the little creek bottom, ditch bottom in the farmland, whatever. So then we went back the next day, different wind, different stuff, find the, had the same, basically, I think it was the same deer go by, different scenario, not the same as yesterday, go set up. Well, when we set up, it was 80 degrees and I got my buddies that are hunting this thick stuff saying, hey, I'm seeing, it's like the Nate Rozeveld stuff. Like I'm on my 5th buck this morning. Like I've seen 6 bucks already. And we're sitting here just baking in the sun. And I'm like, this isn't it. Like, your gut's telling you I'm literally sitting like I need sunglasses and I'm in a t-shirt. Like this is not what I'm here for, So we go over there, get into this thick, like the thickest stuff that you've ever encountered with these hills and just like disgusting, nasty stuff. Like see one small buck. And then we got up on the next morning, we get up, go to this place where it's glassing, all this nasty, nasty, nasty stuff. I mean, it looks like it's, just like brushy, but it's like over your head, 8-10 foot thick brush, garbage. So that's like about the habitat. I mean, that's what we were in.
Okay. Oh, where did I lost my train of thought there. We got a new face that just joined us. What's up, buddy?
I'm just listening to the great stories already. Adam's got like $100 already. This is amazing.
How you doing? How you doing up there? Have you survived the snowstorm?
Yeah, barely. We're still kicking.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. There's no habitat up here except for ice and snow. So
ice and snow. How do the deer like that?
They're gone.
They went. They go to Florida for the winter.
They left.
They left. Mine left too. I think they didn't like this stuff. They're down by these guys now. But yeah, so the habitat out there compared to here is, I mean, it's a lot more open ground, correct? And with more plot or more cover than, pockets of cover. Would you say?
Well, yes. I mean, that's there's a lot you can see a lot, and you're looking for the cover, and then when you find cover, it's usually pretty nasty. But kind of like in both situations, I guess like in both situations where I found, I guess in both situations where it was open, like where there was anything that was open, what I found from my first trip out there was the cedars were like, if I could just find the cedars, I could find the deer. Like they just wanted to be bedded in the cedars. They felt comfortable moving in and out of the cedars. And that was like a good starting point.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I would say like, just, from a public land perspective, when you hunt out of state, and be that like I was in Illinois too this year, and I've been in Kansas, Missouri, all these states. Like the biggest difference I've noticed is like when you think public land in Michigan, what do you think? You think a lot of trees, a lot of swamp, that kind of thing, like big blocks of continuous timber or a monoculture of the same type of trees or oak ridges or whatever. When you go to like a Kansas or a Missouri or certain parts of Illinois, it's like you have all this space, this section of public, and you'll have ag fields on it. You might have CRP on it. You might have the thickest, nastiest brush that you've got to somehow walk through, paired with water. Like, so there's just a lot more diversity when you go out of state on public land is what I have noticed over the years in all the places I've been.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite part to target? Like your favorite habitat to target when you're out of state?
I think Adam likes to target where he can see. Like he's got to see deer. Like that dude had a 130 in front of him twice and 2 sits, and he bails and goes somewhere. It's just not going on here, and he's seeing deer left and right, but he couldn't see enough.
Leave deer to find deer, isn't that what they say?
That's what Adam did.
That was a different situation. Like I said, I was just sitting in the sun. These guys are seeing deer over there. I said, and that second morning, like, I mean, that deer went by. Joe saw him. He was terrible at giving me directions. He's like, he's in front of that tree. Like, we're in the trees, Joe. We're in the trees. Like, what tree? Like, we need, doing the podcast with Nate when he's filming with Aaron. They're like, oh, we've got this tree and we're gonna call it this. We got this tree, we're gonna call it this. We got blue 42 and this and this and this and this. And I won't even say the one that I got this great clip. Maybe I'll send it to you, Hutchie. You can use it of the trees, the names for these trees. Nate forbade me from using it, but I have it.
It's a nest egg. It's a golden egg in the episode. So if you guys want to find it, you just gotta look up some podcasts. You can find it.
But we didn't have that. So Joe's like, big buck, and he's in front of that tree. Like, what tree, Joe? What tree?
100 of them.
Yeah. So, and then he walked by, and I'm pretty sure it's the same buck that I was at full draw on, which Joe never saw the day before. So it's just like reciprocal. At 13 yards, he's laying on his back. This deer's basically at his feet, and he didn't see him. But anyways, so we're just sitting there in the sun, and I left because these guys are seeing a whole bunch of deer. I don't know. I don't know how to hunt this ag land stuff. And for me to see deer, like I'm on a truncated timetable. I want to be able to be in the deer. Like I want to know, like right now, the deer. But what am I targeting? Transition, like transition. And the stuff where we saw that small buck, the stuff where I was at, the stuff where I was trying to figure out, I guess, where we went that night. It was tough. Like, you talk about, Nate was saying like monoculture. Yes, we were like, it wasn't like micro terrain, but it was like so thick, and we were hunting terrain features and using that as pinches. And so it wasn't, I mean, that's what the transition was transition in terrain. And I would rather use transition in habitat than transition in terrain, or a combination of the two. And yes, coupled with the ability to see. But that's what's really tough. Like we were talking about earlier about, on that lease where like I'm hunting that like I'm hunting public land. So I'm like, I'm not going to be on the field edge. I'm trying to be where I think these deer are going to move safely. And these deer on this private, on these like inside corners and on these transitions, they don't care about the field edge. Every single one of those bucks I could have killed on the field edge. But no, I'm sitting where I'm going to be on public land, where I'm on the backside of this ridge where I'm feeling like they're going to skirt it. And they're like, I'm just going to be like cruising this field edge where all the scrapes are, where on public, they would never in a million years do that. So it's like, for me, the combination of the transition and terrain is what I'm looking at immediately on public land out of state.
Okay. Nate, same, different?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's time of year specific. So like majority of guys, you're going out of state in November, right? Like it's a rut hunt. So I try and like, I've hunted where the year before I hunted the same area that Adam was hunting. So like when he's talking about what he saw and how he did, it's like, yeah, I seen the exact same thing. And he's 100% right. Cause I did when I looked at that piece, knowing I'm hunting in the rut, it's thick, nasty stuff with these pockets of terrain, and you're trying to get a deer in bow range. And how he got a shot off on his deer was that he was on the edge of the thick stuff paired with a ridge, and the deer naturally flow through, and he capitalized on that. I mean, it's a wild story, and he got super lucky because of everything else and whatever. If you want to listen to that, you can listen to that. But it's same mindset, right? Like when I go rut hunt somewhere, especially if I've never been there, I will scout like crazy on new public pieces. Like I'll just start walking in places. Like the first year I hunted Kansas, I think I did 15 miles in one day. And that didn't include like truck time. I was just going to spots and just burning through, like almost jogging across open fields and waiting until I found something that hits me in the face. And usually when that sign hits me in the face, it's paired with really good cover. And that could be a pocket of cover that does are in, paired with a transition of some sort, as in edge of a waterway, edge of a swamp, edge of an ag field, like inside corner. Like sometimes a hidden piece of ag can work really well in the rut if you're trying to learn a piece. But I'm all about edge, man. Like in the rut, like it's tough to beat that perpendicular buck movement versus the, parallel doe movement. Like that's kind of what I try to do, is play on that. And then when I do, like I've hunted late season a couple times in December. Illinois, I've done that twice, and Missouri did it once. I like the December hunting. What I learned this year was to really focus in on those south facing hillsides for bedding, and pair that with a food source. And we did that, and it took us 2 days. We walked by the time we got back to the truck with the rack and the deer in our backs, we did 20 miles in 2 days. Like that's how much we walked. And it took us, we learned through all that scouting that the deer right now we're using the south facing slopes and then moving to the ag. And we capitalized on that movement, or that pattern, I guess, for December.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that was like glossed over there is like, I was just talking about like strictly terrain, but like the scouting piece is like, when we were in Tennessee, like we had these spots pinned based on like terrain and wind direction. Like same thing when we were in Missouri, it was like terrain and wind direction. And it was like, we were going to go here, but it was 100% like boots on the ground, like look until we found like the sign. But that sign was always based on going in on the terrain and on that like edge. Like that was like 100% of like why we were going there. Mm-hmm. Like, but like habitat, like whatever we were looking for, that's what we were looking for. But the scouting is like, that's going to tell you where to sit, but like where to start looking. That's where, and it's so much fun. And, our buddy Eric is absolutely the best at it, but it's so fun. Like Tennessee was the perfect example of like, we're, I don't know, 900 miles away, 500 miles away, however far it is, 6 months ahead of time, we pin these spots and we say, okay, there's an edge here. There's a saddle here. There's these draws here. Like we put pins there just to go check them. So we go in there, scrapes and all tore up, sit there, see deer like immediately. I mean, it's in like where I killed my buck was a spot that we both had pinned. Eric went in there the day before and he was like working his way in there and had seen bucks, and he just went to where he had seen bucks and I went to where we both had pinned. We walked over there. There's a scrape exactly where we put the pin, killed a buck there. And funny thing is, and this is where people like, I talked about, I think it was like on the last podcast or the last time I was talking to somebody, but like that was the last day we could hunt there and it was the wrong wind. But Jared said, don't leave deer to find deer. We knew that there was deer in there and we knew that like that was our last chance. So it didn't matter if we blew them out. Like we weren't going to go back and hunt them the next day. There was no chance. So it was like all our chips were in there. And that deer came in and I killed him. And, you know, 2 more steps, or if he would have been on the other side of the tree or whatever, he'd have smelled me and he'd have blown out of there, but he didn't. And I killed him. And the wind was, you know, we knew the deer were in there, so we went in there anyways. So, but that's always cool when you can see it on a map, go in there and it's exactly what you thought, you know?
Love it.
Yeah, I think it's important you guys mentioned there, you know, just the scouting thing in general, just cover deer. I don't mind when Adam said he wants to see deer as well. Like you have limited amount of time. The wind can be wrong. These out-of-state deer don't always react the same way Michigan deer do when they do smell you. So you got a chance to slip an arrow in, maybe. And then you got to go home on Sunday or whatever. So you got to figure it out.
Well, look at it this way, right? So Nate's saying like, oh, I put in 20 miles or whatever. But like, you know, we can all probably agree that we love watching like Zach Fehrenbaugh hunt. And so what does he say? He's like, if I can see one, like I've got a better chance of killing one. So if Nate's going to go walk 20 miles to find a spot where he thinks he can kill one, or if I can just go and see one, then, you know, at least now I know I'm 100% validated that they're there. And that is not what I'm doing in, you know, Missouri, Tennessee, whatever. But like, that's been the case both times I've been to Kansas, where you can see a long ways. I don't know. I mean, I have seen more bucks in the limited amount of time that I've been hunting in Kansas than I've seen does. And it's probably almost 2 to 1. So
that's crazy.
But again, you weren't here for the beginning of this, but it's like Nate's hunting, you know, bucks that have had 17 birthdays, and I'm hunting bucks that get me excited.
Oh no, I know Nate Dogg gets it done. He's after these 4 or 5 year olds, that's for sure.
I'm looking for 4 or 5 deer.
I like shooting deer. Yeah,
yeah, you do.
Well, I think a good way to like roll the out of state stuff to the like, you know, here in Michigan with habitat improvements, or, you know, kind of roll the food plot strategy or however you want to do that in, is like perfect example is Adam's new lease this year. I looked at that from a map the same way I'd look at a giant piece of public. It's just micro, like it's so much smaller. He's like, I'm sitting on this field edge and the deer in the field edge. Well, it's only 4 acres of cover, so they don't really have much room. So they're going to move through it. They're going to use the field edge to get from point A to point B a lot quicker than they're going to use a 1,000-acre piece of public that's got a 6-acre field on it that every guy and their brothers walked to that field edge to get in there. So like it's that mindset of, each property is different, and there is some control you can have with private land to an extent that you can kind of pivot off of, but it's still the same thing. Like some of the food plots that I implemented this year, I did strictly based on the fact that I knew what deer like to do there, and I knew I could capitalize with a bow in my hand. I didn't just, like, you've been on the property, right, Jared? Like there's room, there's a lot of room for food plots there on that northern piece. But I tucked them into certain spots because that's where I wanted the deer to commit to moving through. And the buck I shot with my gun was literally going from one bedding area to the other bedding area. And what was in between those 2 bedding areas? A nice food plot that all the does were using. And I was able to capitalize on him, you know, late November. And heck, even the buck I shot in early October, like that was a ag country with small amount of cover, but there was a terrain feature that I knew bucks like to use because there's an acorn flat that meets a swamp, and there's the ridge that goes right on the edge of that. And early season, they love working those scrapes, and I slipped in there and shot them on that edge or that transition like Adam was talking about. It's the same stuff you do in your home state. You can target those same areas there as you do, you know, out of state. Just sometimes it might be the different size or the scale of what you're targeting.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, you know, and some of these food plots, they're not even huge destination. Like, I'm going to go get full there all night. It's more like give them a reason to pop there, check the does, like you said, grab a bite and keep moving. And like your PC mentioned, being secluded in these little corners and pockets and off away from the road, screened in, all that, gives them that feeling to come out in daylight, right, when we need them to. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, Adam, that your lease, like where you talked about all those bucks working that corner or that field edge with scrapes, can you see that from the road?
No.
Exactly. That's I love that. Love that.
Yeah. And that was, interesting to me because, again, same thing as like I'm hunting it like public, where I don't think I sat in the same tree one time in there. And it's like every time I sat there in a different spot, they went right underneath where I was at the day before. It was like I couldn't find the right spot, and it was so annoying. But the spot that I had initially set up, like the spot where we mentioned earlier, Jared, like the first day that I went in there, where I was pretty sure that I needed to be, like the spot to be, is like completely covered in poison ivy. Like I'm pretty sure I could have killed all of those deer, except for the biggest one that I saw that that was, I think that was the first time that I ever saw a buck like that you guys that people talk about, like that's like a random buck that just shows up during the rut. Like I saw a buck there that I didn't have on any of the cameras. That was like a wild, gnarly buck that was super cool. But I think every deer except for that one I could have killed out of the poison ivy tree. But I was bouncing around. I sat probably 7 different trees in there.
All right.
Yeah, I treat my stuff the same way this year. I didn't hunt out of an actual tree stand until I went to Illinois because there was one there. I was in the saddle the entire year, up and down the tree. I don't know. I mean, I know it's we talk about being mobile and everything, and yeah, maybe they walked into the tree you went, you were at the night before, but if you sit that same spot every time, they're gonna know where you were. So you gotta stay moving. And once you get that dialed in, like how deadly do you feel when you're just like shimmy up a tree quietly, you're set, you've never sat there, and that spot, the deer don't know you're there. That's the confidence thing too. For me, I'm like, I feel really good about this, and I think getting that dialed in and being able to move around on a lease like that, or even on private here in Michigan, is extra important due to the pressure. Where out of state, maybe you could hang a stand and sit it a week straight or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very much a learning curve for me. Like it was wild.
Well, I'm gonna hit you guys with a rapid fire segment. Are you guys ready? This is brought to you by Latitude Outdoors, by the way. Adam, I love that shirt.
That is nice.
That is nice. All right. Favorite beverage? Rapid fire. Nate, go.
Mountain Dew Zero has been my drink of choice lately. I love that stuff. One a day. I got a limit.
Adam?
Energy drink, doesn't matter what it is.
I like it. All right. Food, water, or cover? Just to relate to what we've been covering here. What you got to pick one? What's most important to you? Where are you hunting?
Cover.
Can I do time frame? Rut, cover.
Rapid fire, Nate. Rapid fire.
Cover. Cover.
All right. Favorite venison recipe? What have you guys been using those back straps or ground for these days?
Meatballs.
Ooh.
It's a new one.
We've been on a taco kick lately at the house. Blackstone taco. Henry loves it, so we've been doing a lot of venison tacos.
I just had some. They actually made extra. I had some breakfast sausage made, and my wife makes incredible meatballs. And with the venison, the meatballs are like super rich. So with the venison, it's not quite as rich, and they're just phenomenal.
Mm.
Very good. What bow are you guys shooting this past season?
Go for it, Adam.
Raven.
10 point?
This past season, I started with the bear because I hadn't killed anything with the bear, and so I ended up shooting the black bear with the bear. And I was like, "Oh, this is fun. I'm going to just use this bow this season." I missed that buck.
That bow, by the way. I hate that bow, by the way.
So Nate, so that's what happened. I 100% blame Nate.
Was a bad juju for it, I guess.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up. So it wasn't me. So I shot that bear, no problem, super cool. I hunted with it up until I think it was like mid October. I give it to Nate in the tree. He misses a button buck with it, and
40 yards, and the arrow was like, ooh. Like shooting a recurve out that deer.
And then I missed that buck 3 times with it at the same buck 3 times, same tree, same sit.
Oh no!
And I had to call the suicide hotline, and they said don't use that bow anymore. So I went back to the bow tech, and all was right with the world. Bowtech Carbon's Ion, and I'm that one's being relegated to the backup bow this year. But that bow has seen some things. If they still make them, if you're in the market for a bow that's light, that's simple, that's decently fast, that's a very good platform, and it's inexpensive.
Perfect.
And Nate?
Yeah, so the bow that does not shoot button bucks, as a joke, is, it's an I just have a Hoyt RX7 Ultra. I've been rocking that bow for 3 seasons now, and yeah, I love it. But that's my bow of choice.
Okay, I thought you were a Hoyt guy. Let's do this. The one piece of gear you have to have in your pack.
Ooh, I have to have my pack. Well, this year it would have been the camera. Video camera would be mine. Otherwise, Adam would murder me if I didn't have a camera. So that's that one piece of gear.
So I'll say just for that, just because I'm that guy, because of the camera, I'll say the Insta 360 is the best thing ever. Get yourself one. Yeah. But I absolutely 100% despise bow ropes. So Doyle's gear hoists, best thing ever.
Great.
I agree. I carry that as well. I agree.
Right, my Ranger 22, always ready to go.
Yep, and it has a grommet hole in the bottom, so you just run it through there. It's always in there. Don't have to think about it.
Yep.
And all right, last but not least, favorite tree. See if this has changed. What's your favorite tree? To hunt out of
or look at.
To plant, to hunt out of, to look at.
Cut down.
I'm really growing to like oaks more than I ever thought I would. Like a shrubby oak tree is fun to hunt out of, and for some reason I find big bucks skirting edges where there's smaller oaks, like those medium-sized oaks. There's always a good stump underneath them. You can target them early season. So yeah, I really have begun to when I see an oak tree off by itself, in CRP or on the edge, I'm like a beacon. Like I have to go check that tree out. So I like the smaller oaks. One that's still big enough to hunt out of, but that's what I like.
Great answer.
Give me like a triple maple, like so where I can get up the one, have 2 as back cover. I can lean up against it, like hang all my stuff. Like that's basically any triple, but the maples usually don't have any branches for a while. Yeah. Like you can tuck right in. That's the one.
Great answer.
I like it.
Hutchie, that's the wrap of the rapid fire.
That's right. Well, thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys coming on today. It's always good to catch up with you two. I see Yukon's got to get out probably here in a second and go battle the elements here in the Great White North. So
you you messed up, Jared, because he's Yukon Cornelius, right? And if he's Yukon Cornelius, he should have a pistol and a blunt, device. So what's your everyday carry there, Nate? What do you got in your belt right now?
Well, if you look back to some pictures of me as a little kid, I'm standing on a recliner chair, balancing with my undies, and I have a little cat pistol shoved in my underwear. So
I love it.
I like it.
I've been rocking a 10 millimeter the last little bit. So I'm in the market for a new 9, and I just got the 10 millimeter. So
what are you compensating for, huh?
For a reason, right?
Well, thanks again, guys. We appreciate catching up with you. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year, boys. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Habitat Podcast. We really do appreciate you guys coming back every week to get this awesome Habitat content. And we would appreciate it if you went to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to this podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us continue to grow and trend in the right direction, attract new listeners, and help us provide better content in the future. Guys, we have a website full of resources. We have a blog on the website. We have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all linked up at habitatpodcast.com. Our land plan services, merchandise, decals, hats, t-shirts, and I give away a free 5-inch decal to anyone who leaves us a review on Apple iTunes. Really appreciate it. I want to thank our partners, Downburst Cedars, Vitalize Seed Company, Morse Nursery, Packer Max Cultipackers, Stealth Outdoors, First Light Latitude Outdoors, United Country Midwest Lifestyle Properties. Thanks again, guys. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Habitat Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.